Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a quick little comparison between the iPhone 11 and the Samsung Galaxy A52. Now, both these phones you can actually pick up brand new still from their manufacturers. I will find the cheapest ones of these on Amazon and link them down in the description below. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the front of both of these, the iPhone 11 first of all came out in 2019, the A52 just came out, and side by side you can definitely see the Samsung Galaxy A52 is the bigger phone overall in pretty much every single dimension. The iPhone 11 has that 6.1-inch IPS panel on it, and it's really not a bad panel. I think it looks pretty good. Definitely looks a little bit more dated than something like an A52. But I think for the most part, this is still a very solid display. It's definitely not perfect, but it does get the job done for the most part. And I think for most casual users out there, even people who are picky, I think you're probably going to be okay with this panel. Apple does a pretty good job at their software and the hardware implementations of their displays. Now on the A52, on the other hand, you are getting a little bit of a bigger 6.5-inch OLED panel, so it's definitely a better looking panel for sure. Hole punch display. That automatically makes this panel look better. I still think the iPhone 11's panel looks a little bit sharper for some reason, but I will tell you, dude, the Samsung Galaxy A52 has that 90 Hz refresh rate. This in and of itself is one of the biggest improvements, I think, from going from like an A50 or A51 to something like an A52. But on top of that, going from an iPhone 11 to an A52, you're going to be seeing that improvement on a phone that's cheaper brand new than an iPhone 11. That is a very strong statement to remember. The A52 is a cheaper phone, and it's definitely some areas you're going to notice it, but I really do like that about the A52. Lightning port on the bottom on the iPhone 11, A52 has USB-C, but you do have a headphone jack on the bottom of the A52, which is pretty important. On the back, you can see glass back on the iPhone 11, plastic back on the A52. Now, is this a big deal? I'll say to some people yes, to some people no. For me, it is a big deal if it's their flagship phone. The fact that it's a budget phone, I'm okay with it if they're willing to put other things in the phone. If they had to put a plastic back on here to put a 90 Hz refresh rate, I think that's a fair trade-off in my opinion. So I'm not really too salty about it. But I do prefer the glass back, and it definitely feels much better and more premium on the iPhone 11 than on the A52. Quadruple camera setup on the A52 we'll get into in a second, and dual camera setup on the iPhone 11. And that really pretty much covers it up on the outside. Both of them have IP certification, which is really good, but that really pretty much covers it up in terms of the outside for the most part. Now, software-wise, this is, I think, one of the biggest assets for the iPhone 11. So on the outside, I was kind of saying, the A52 looks better and may have, the headphone jack and stuff. It's kind of cool. The iPhone 11, though, kills it in the software. You're definitely going to be getting a longer lasting phone on something like an iPhone 11 than on something like an A52. Now, is this a crazy big deal? It totally depends on how you look at it. I think for probably a lot of people out there, you're probably going to want to get an iPhone because of the iOS atmosphere and the ecosystem and stuff. You're probably going to be getting a much longer lasting phone, updates on time, and all that stuff on the iPhone 11. One of my main issues that I have with Samsung, especially with their A series lineups, is the software updates are kind of all over the place. So sometimes they'll announce, oh, these next A series of devices are going to get the next software version, but it's not until like many months after it's already officially been announced and released for the Pixel devices. That's very annoying. And I'm not a huge fan of One UI either. It's very weird looking for a lot of people. I like stock iOS. It looks beautiful, very minimalistic, no bloatware, no weird noises and anything. I think that's a huge strong point for the iPhone 11. But a good thing about the A52 is that you have a massive size battery on the A52. Now, no wireless charging, but still, that's a very good thing you have on the A52. The battery life, I think, on the A52 is going to be better than on the iPhone 11. The iPhone 11 is still going to have pretty good battery life, but that is a massive thing that you have going for with the Galaxy A52 that the iPhone 11 necessarily doesn't have. So keep that in mind. So it's kind of a pro for the iPhone 11, kind of a pro for the A52 as well. So in terms of that, that covers it up there. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both these phones. The iPhone 11 has that Apple A13 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM, where the A52 has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 720G chipset inside of it with 4 gigs of RAM on the base model, and it does go up all the way up to 8 gigs of RAM. This model has 4 gigs of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, now that we're back, let me go and clear the apps in the background. As you can see, they're cleared out. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. iPhone 11, I think, was the faster one there. Let's go and do their cameras, 3, 2, 1. And I think, again, the iPhone 11 was the faster one there as well. Let's go do their app stores, 3, 2, 1. And you can see the A52 actually was the faster one there. Scrolling through, you can kind of see that I don't know. I think maybe the iPhone 11 is faster and smooth. I think the iPhone 11 is smoother, but the Galaxy A52 I think was faster. That was speeding through that thing. Now hopping over to the other page where I have a bunch of these third-party apps. Let's go into Netflix. 3, 2, 1. And you can see A52 faster. iPhone 11 a little bit behind, surprisingly. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 11 did actually open that up faster. I thought for some reason the A52 was going to be faster there. And you can see the iPhone 11 fully loaded, the A52 slightly behind. Is it a crazy big difference? To me, not really. I think it's okay, especially with this thing being the cheaper phone and having the cheaper Qualcomm, chipset inside of it. I don't know why I paused there. I always see that with the A52, it like glitches up there for a second. So that kind of like a hole in that standpoint, but I still think it's fairly good on the A52 and the iPhone 11 both. Let's go ahead and do Fruit Ninja. 3, 2, 1. And I think again, yeah, the iPhone 11 was faster there. A52 again is just slightly behind. Not like a crazy big difference here either, but still something to keep in mind. I guess I'll just go ahead and click that. Hopping out of this one, let's go ahead and do Snapchat, which I don't have both at. 3, 2, 1. A52 is faster. iPhone 11 a little bit behind. Dropbox 3, 2, 1. And actually, I think the A52 was faster there. Very surprising. Hopping out of this one, let's go ahead and do Quizlet 3, 2, 1. And I think again the A52 was the faster one. That's actually pretty surprising. I don't know what happened there. Facebook 3, 2, 1. I was logged in here for some reason. I think the A52 may have been a little bit faster. Snake versus Blocks 3, 2, 1. And you can see the A52 again catching up. I'm pretty surprised. I don't know what happened randomly out of nowhere. I thought the A52 was going to be slower than all of them. You can see that the iPhone 11, they're both around the same thing. I don't really think one is like way faster than the other one. I'm getting kind of the same impression on both. Hopping out of this specific app, let's go ahead and do Thank You. 3, 2, 1. And again, A52 is faster. iPhone 11 a little bit behind. I don't know what happened, guys. I think it's okay for the A52 to be faster, actually. It was fairly surprising. It's always with these A50, it's always with these Snapdragon like XG chipsets. Like they're just so fast for some reason. I look at the Pixel, it's the same thing. Even with the Pixel 4a, it was pretty fast. Let's end it off with Twitter. 3, 2, 1. And I think the iPhone 11 one there. The consensus of this specific, speed comparison, I'm shocked by how fast the A52 is. I wasn't expecting the A52 to be this fast. I was expecting the iPhone 11 to be the faster one. And I think maybe it was faster here and there. But I think for a majority of them, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I think for a majority of them, the iPhone 11 was actually a little bit slower than the A52. As you can see, the A52 I think had a restart there. But regardless, dude, the A52 held its own for a budget phone. I have a lot of respect for it. So in terms of the speed comparison, that pretty much covers it up there. Let's go and hit on the cameras. Now on the back, iPhone 11 has a dual camera setup, wide and an ultra-wide sensor. The Samsung Galaxy A52 has a wide, ultra-wide, macro, and depth lens, so quad camera on this specific device on the A52. Now, I don't think it's any secret. I think the iPhone 11's camera is beautiful. I still think it's very good. 4K 60 on the back, 4K 60 on the front. A very solid camera still for sure. This is horrible lighting for my iPhone, but it's very good lighting for my DSLR. But I can tell you, outdoor photos, indoor photos, TikToks, anything you're going to do with this camera, it's going to be beautiful. You're going to have a great time with this specific lens. It's definitely not like I think the perfect camera out there, but it does the job. I wish it had the telephoto lens and maybe something like, what the S21 Ultra has. But I think this camera is very solid. And for a majority of people out there, it's a very predictable camera. All the apps like TikTok, Instagram support this camera very well. I think it's a very solid camera all around. Now, something like the Galaxy A52, I actually do think this is a very solid camera as well. It's definitely not perfect, but I think it gets the job done. Now, 4K 30 on the back, but you do have 4K 30 on the front. And for something like a OnePlus 9 to still only have 1080p, I think it's crazy. This device does have a little bit more versatility in that sense, but I will tell you one advantage that you have with the A52 over the iPhone 11 is the amount of features that's stuck within this camera. There are so many features in this camera that's so crazy. You can go and click more. You have like tons of pro mode options and so many different things so you guys can kind of look through them yourselves. This camera has it all. It's a very solid camera. It's up there with like an S20 kind of, in terms of capability. And I think that's something that's very awesome. It's definitely not the perfect camera. I think the iPhone 11 is the better camera for sure. But for a budget tier phone, this is actually a pretty solid camera overall. So in terms of that covers it up in the camera standpoint. Now, to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and buy an iPhone 11? I dropped my phone there. Or should you buy a Galaxy A52? Well, this is what I'll tell you. If you have either one of these phones, I would probably recommend keeping them. I don't necessarily think I would go from one phone to the other one just yet. But as I've mentioned before, an iPhone 11 is going to last you longer in the long run. So the A52 is going to be good now. It's going to get Android 12 whenever that comes out. But it's not going to get it on time. It's probably going to be delayed like all the other updates and stuff. But I really do think the iPhone 11 is the overall better phone. It's a little bit more expensive, obviously, in the new market, and you can get it for cheaper in the used market, but it's probably the most well-rounded phone out of these two. It was a little bit slower here and there than the A52, which was surprising, but I think for an everyday phone, if I had to pick one of these, it would hands down be the iPhone 11. It's more solid. It has not as good of a screen, but the performance is more consistent. This one was faster, but this one I felt like just was smoother, let alone that the software I like a lot more. It's a very good feeling phone in the hand, and I just think it's like probably one of the more perfect iPhones Apple has ever released. But on something like the Galaxy A52, and this is major, this is a cheaper phone than the iPhone 11 in most places. I think I picked this up for 400. This thing's selling for 600, but it doesn't look like a bad phone. It looks like a very premium phone still because it is a pretty premium phone for an A-series device. You have that hole punch display, which looks beautiful, 120 hertz. I mean, who else is doing it at this level? I mean, this is a 90 hertz panel. Like, who else is doing it for their budget-tier phones like this? OnePlus is kind of doing it. But this is a very solid phone in that standpoint. Headphone jack, micro SD card slot, kind of quadruple camera setup, which is kind of nice. Even though it has a plastic back, you're getting IP certification, you're getting some cool things like that. And I think this phone really is a pretty well-rounded phone too. Like I mentioned, if I had to pick up one, it would probably be the iPhone 11. But I think the A52 is right up there, and I think it's a very solid phone as well. So in terms of that, that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. But more importantly, everything else. I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.